sworn personnel.
Backpacks.
Moving on to Story short, this student ended up, through the help of the Lions Club and just through the partnerships that we have in the community, was able to learn that she had a health condition, and Mr. Sands or Dr. Sands had gone a step further to get her the specialist referral. So I just think the partnerships through the Vision Center and through the Lions Club, that allowed this student to get what she needs, and hopefully she's on the road to recovery with her health condition. So going forward, these are the pictures. Every single year, we started 3 years ago with the food drive for Lawrence County Schools. The Family Resource Center put this on. I've gotten a little smarter as the years have gone by. The first year, you invited one and all who wanted to participate, and they would collect a food item, and then they would bring it to the J.C. Barnett building where the food pantry is located. And fast forward to year 3, and this is the outcome. Partnerships are churches. Churches collected assigned items to particular churches and schools and individuals, and they absolutely delivered. So we have a room full of food in the district food pantry, and we are able to meet food needs based on as they come in. And we're very proud. We've got a hygiene corner. We've got a mass amount of food that we are able to send students home with as they need it. So I think that's everything. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, and I appreciate Ms. Golden and Sarah and all y'all report. Could you scroll back up to the data, going back to the therapist, the graph, and the different issues that our kids are seeing or dealing with? There it is. You have the behavior, anger, and anxiety, and depression. I would like to see if Mr. Atkins, if I'm allowed to ask these ladies to do that, but is there a way to get this broken out in age group and see if kind of correlate? I'm just curious as to what, you know, and maybe you already know, you know, what's your biggest age group that are dealing with these issues, and what, is there a change between elementary school to high school?
We are currently tracking that. I cannot tell you the specific numbers off the top of my head, but we do track the age group, several other pieces of information, including their ACES score. And ACES scores are pretty high across the board. I can tell you that half of my caseload is trauma. And there are students that really would meet criteria to be seen at Kids Place. The Kids Place is on a wait list. I actually reached out to their executive director earlier this week, and she told me that they currently have 15 clients on a wait list, and they don't know when they'll be able to get those 15 seen, much less the ones that we're seeing. You know, Camelot, they have been on a wait list. They recently hired a therapist. Center Stone has quit taking intakes at least to the end of the holidays. So a lot of these people, if they weren't seeing us, they wouldn't have anybody to see. But we can get you the specific information.
Yes, I have that. Especially, I will say, as I was putting these numbers together, a lot were elementary, not only high school, but elementary. So you would assume that one might just be in high school, but it's not. So,
I mean, one of the things that intrigued me personally in my own private studies and trying to get more plugged in, but this anxiety, it seems to be new since, you know, it's not been that long ago since I was in our school systems, and this is just kind of shocking to me, and trying to get an understanding of why in our society and in Lawrence County, why so many kids are dealing with anxiety. And that's our number one, according to this data, that's your number one case.
And I think too, another thing that used to, it was taboo to talk about depression and anxiety and things like that. And I think the more we talk about mental health, the more people are realizing it's okay, you know, if you have a mental health illness. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to deal with it. And so I think that that's why we've seen a lot more is we're talking about it more. We're talking about it with our kids. We're talking about it with our own personal kids. And we're talking about it in the schools.
And does our teachers in the classroom, do they know how to deal with students who have, I mean, when I was in school, you'd be called upon to stand up and read in class. Well, you don't want to call on a kid that suffers with anxiety. And are they aware? And you know, how are we changing? How is education changing I mean, we've got the therapists helping and dealing with them, but how are our teachers being trained to deal with these issues that we're seeing
I
explode?
think David Crockett is a perfect example, being a trauma-informed school. Also, capturing kids' hearts blends right into that. Most of those referrals do come from teachers, and so they are aware. We have the Giving Grace program that kind of helps people take some extra care and caution of those that might be struggling. So I do think that we are not 100% at it, but I do think that teachers are becoming more aware of how to.
We are also reaching out to the teachers and having conversations with them, because a lot of times they're noticing the issues within the classroom as well. Like Ms. Golden said, if they're sending us the referrals, they're going to know already the student is seeing us, but we're getting the feedback from them, checking in, like,
How
okay,
it's
are you
helping.
noticing any changes? And we're hearing back from teachers, from school counselors, from some of the principals. You know,
That they're very happy to report that there are improvements.
Great, thank you. And if y'all don't mind, I would love to see that data on the age group.
We can get that.
I've got one question. Once these referrals come in, how are these diagnoses made?
So, once the referrals come in, it might work a little bit different for therapists, but for me, example, I will have conversations with the person who gave the referral, the school counselor, because sometimes the referral might be more like one behavioral issue, so they don't necessarily need therapy, but the school counselor will then reach out to them, or I will, depending on what is identified in the referral. I'll schedule an intake, so that's an information gathering. We'll do the ACES questionnaire as a part of that. We'll talk to the parents and the student as well, depending on the student's age. And then once they start seeing us, we have different assessments that we do that are specific for each of these diagnoses, as well as one that is more of a general tracker of symptom improvement. So these are actual assessments that have been normed specifically for the diagnosis.
So we can do that in-house?
Yes. Now, we're not labeling
Yes.
kids with the diagnosis. You know,
This
so-
is just reasons. When someone's saying, I have an issue with anger or whatever, that's where that diagnosis is coming from, that reason. Is that making sense?
Well, I was just wondering, at what point do you get psychiatrists involved in this, or with drug medication and all that sort of thing?
That really depends a lot on the student and their family. A lot of folks do not want to be on medication, and that's certainly not something we
Yeah.
push.
We don't do that in-house at all.
Yep.
Yeah,
And none
well, I
of us-
understand that, but y'all would refer them on if that was,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
One final question, just so if you receive a referral, and just so I'm clear, and you may can educate me here on the law, but you receive a referral of a student, is their parent notified before anybody's calls the student out?
100%.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, in Tennessee, I do
Yes,
want to say
yes.
that if a student is 16 or older, they can consent to therapy without their parents' approval.
Okay.
So we have had a few, I've got two, that they said, please don't contact my parent, they don't think that mental health issues are real, but I'm gonna kill myself. In which case, because the safety is more of a concern to me.
Absolutely.
I did not reach out to the
Yeah,
parents. But yes, we do contact the parents, especially anyone under 16, we have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can refuse it. They
Yes.
can absolutely refuse it.
If the parents
The
refuse
parent
it,
can,
then it is.
yes.
Yes.
That is, unless there is evidence of the trauma being abuse or whatever, then we go.
We go further when we
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
y'all doing an outstanding job. I can recall just even going back 3-4 years ago, none of this was happening. It was all outside contractors coming in, seeing the child for maybe less than an hour, and then sending them off to class. I mean, it blows my mind what y'all are doing now. It is outstanding. Keep up the outstanding work. Wonderful,
well,
wonderful.
it wouldn't have been possible without y'all for giving us the
It's
positions.
very
So we
much
appreciate it.
needed,
We appreciate it. Thank
especially
you.
in this county.
Absolutely.
So
And anytime
just
you
keep
need
it up,
more.
keep it up.
Yeah, and if,
If you wanna give us
anytime you
more,
want to give us more positions, we'll be glad
We're-
to take them.
we're-
We're all the
Sounds
time
like-
asking for money.
Sounds like y'all
I
may
mean,
need more MS social workers. so-
Absolutely, absolutely.
So-
And just one thing real quick, today is Miss Katie's birthday. And so she had to come speak on her birthday today. So we want to wish her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Moving on, under personnel report, that was in the packet. Do you have any questions regarding that? Or do you have anything to add, Mr. Atkins?
No, sir, I think everything in there is satisfactory.
Moving on to D, executive committee reports. Those were approved by myself and Mr. Atkins. We have one for David Crockett Elementary overnight field trips for Beta, and that was already processed, and the purchase of 4 buses budgeted through the 2022-23 SR funds. Excuse me, a total of $341,951, and that came out of in the general purpose fund. Does anybody have any comments or questions regarding those funds that we approved? Moving on to E, LCEA. Do you have anything for us, ma'am?
Good evening. Just briefly, I know TEA had asked us to please mention that one way that you can help out this holiday season that is basically free except for your time is, won't cost you anything, is to just help keep an eye out when you hear things that the General Assembly is going to be meeting and convening in Nashville on January the 10th in 2023, and throughout this session, they will consider pieces of legislation that will directly impact our students, our educators, and our district. And, as our school board members, we ask that you would speak out for us and ask our Senate and our representatives about issues that impact our schools. They pass things a lot of times like the scanning of the books that they don't realize how many books there are in a school system and things like that. And we just appreciate any help that you could give us.
Any questions? Very well, thank you very much. Moving on to F, the TLN network. Ms. Brenda, do you have any updates on that?
Not at this
No,
time.
okay.
They don't start till January.
Very good. And report on TSBA annual convention. I know some of us gave a brief report on going to that. Do you all have anything more to add to that wasn't said Tuesday?
I don't. Do you?
Very good. Moving on to items for consideration, discussion, and action. Under 3, we have budget items for consideration and approval budget for calendar. I will turn this over to Jessica.
So this is just a budget calendar for the next fiscal year of 23-24. Policy states that we would provide this to you guys as we begin the budget cycle for the new year. So it just keeps us on track with how we intend to get information out to our schools, bring information back to this office, gather it together, make presentations to you guys and the county commission, and adopt a budget for the next fiscal year of 23-24. So we're just asking for approval of that calendar.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I got a motion to approve and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries by voice vote. Moving on to classroom technology supplies bid. Jessica?
So this is a purchase from ESSER 3.0 funds, and it is just literally what it's called, classroom technology pieces. It's based off of a contracted pricing, so we're asking for approval $42,999.10.
Very well. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion on the floor to approve and a second. Are there any questions regarding this?
Yes, what is
Go
the
ahead, John.
need that is being met here with this, and where is it going? Because I was under the understanding that that we've already equipped all of the classrooms in this county with everything that they need. Yeah, just want an explanation of what is this for.
So are we on the audio enhancement? Is that what we're
Mhm.
talking about?
Mhm.
I've got 47,000. You said 42.
There's some sales tax on there that will come.
Okay. All right. Last spring, we had a representative come in and share information with us in how we could provide our lower grades, our lower grade teachers with equipment where they would amplify their voice, the teacher would, when they were teaching class, to help younger kids be able to clearly hear what the teacher was saying, the enunciation of words and so forth. And we felt like putting that down in some lower grades would give our teachers, a better opportunity to instruct those students, a louder, it's kind of a microphone type system with as much activity that takes place in those lower grade levels. This was a solution, an additional tool to help those teachers in their instructional approach.
So just to get our teachers louder.
Well, if you've been in the elementary schools and down in those lower grades, those teachers do a wonderful job being loud, but they also do it is very difficult to provide that clarity that we want to see if this makes an impact and can help the students. And Mrs. Ridgway has spearheaded this for me, but I firmly believe giving those teachers one more resource with those younger kids is beneficial.
So we reached out, Mr. Daniel, to all of the lower grade teachers and gave them the information about the product, and then only purchased it for those that were interested and felt like it would be a benefit to their classroom.
So has this already been purchased?
Yeah, this is the quote, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We're only seeking funds for those that desire to have it.
I mean, Mr. Chairman and Director Atkins, I know we have COVID money, that we have stipulations on how to spend it, and if we don't spend it, we lose it. But that being said, still, it is still taxpayers' dollars, and I don't see this as good spending.
Any other questions?
Mr. Crusoe,
Comment? Oh, go ahead.
from the standpoint, I've been there, done that. In the lower grades, children with hearing impairments that may not have been detected yet, I would think they would benefit greatly from this particular device. I would like to see school board members, when this gets set up, to be able to come in and not disrupt the classroom, but just, you know, as a teacher, I say this, as a former teacher, the greatest word that a teacher can hear from a kid is, "Oh, they got it," you know. So that would be my standpoint on that.
I have a motion on the floor in a second. Please call roll.
Caruso,
Aye.
Daniel,
No.
Dryden,
Yes.
Jacobs,
Yes.
Mabry,
Aye.
Nidert,
Aye.
Rochelle,
Yes.
Weathers,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Motion carries. Moving on to C, NPES playground equipment, child care stability grant. Ms. Jacobson.
So, the New Prospect School, Dr. Jones is here, so she might speak to it if need be, but Dr. Jones and her staff with the Extended School Day Program applied for a grant that they received back in the summer, and they're wanting to utilize some of those dollars to purchase some playground equipment. So they've gathered the quotes, and we're just putting this before you for approval.
Move we approve.
There's a picture there of the actual piece of equipment that they're looking to purchase.
We got a motion on the floor to approve in a second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries by voice vote. Moving on to 4 personnel items for consideration, discussion, and action. Approval of tenure. Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Chairman, you have before you the individuals who have been recommended for tenure by their principals and presented to you tonight. There's also letters attached so that you could read how the recommendations came in and so forth. As far as the process of recognizing those teachers, most of them are here tonight. We would have them come forward when their name's called, if you would allow that.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Move we approve.
Got a motion on the floor to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries by voice vote. And please recognize the teachers. Mr. Atkins?
All right, Jason Scott, Holly Threet Daniels, Wendy Scott, Christy Reedy, Laura Rigsby, Tiffany Bidding, Candace Thompson, Paige Tips, and Elizabeth McDonald. If we could have those come forward for a picture. Congratulations.
Welcome to a wonderful years of teaching. Congratulations.
Every time one that's posted, somebody sees me in the background, of course.
Yeah, I know. Do that. Yeah. Congratulations, ladies. Moving on to item number 5, policy items.
I think there's still one more on personnel, isn't there?
That's it.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Special
No, it's
education
additional
department.
Special education department bus.
Was that an add-on?
No.
Right there.
Oh, I'll mark that out. I'm sorry. Additional special education department bus attendants, Mr. Atkins.
This was shared with the board in the weekly update to minimize the time that some of our special ed students are on the bus in the afternoon. Mr. Rogers had worked to address that issue, but the solutions we put in place to correct one issue created the same issue on another bus. And so our request to the board is for a position of a special education attendant so that we minimize the amount of time students are on the bus in the afternoon. And if I recall correctly, this is in the northern end of the county.
Move to approve.
I got a motion to approve. Do I get a second?
Second.
I got a motion to approve and a second. Please call roll. Or do we have any questions regarding this? No questions? Please call roll.
Weathers,
Yes.
Rochelle,
Yes.
Nidert,
Yes.
Mabry,
Aye.
Jacobs,
Yes.
Dryden,
Yes.
Daniel, Caruso,
Yes.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Now we are moving on to 5. Sorry about that. Policy items. We can go one by one or approve all A through E. Mr. Atkins, you have anything to add?
I would think, just to share with the board, that some of these are just cleanup policies, language changes, omissions, as recommended by TSBA. So these are, what you have before you are some just minor adjustments, and again, clearing up some language that needed to be cleared up.
Move to approve.
I have a motion on the floor to approve A through E. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Does anybody have any questions regarding any of these policies, A through E?
I have a statement I'd like to make, yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So I'm familiar with, in the packet that was emailed to us, policy 4.207, 4.207.1, and policy 4.70. Those three, the English language, or the English learners, the English language learners, and the testing policies. I did have opportunity, we all did, to read those policies. The first two policies on this list I never saw, and I would like them checked off of this vote tonight until until we've all had time to review them. Because to my knowledge, we have not been able to review the inventory and or the payroll procedure.
Are you making that as an amendment?
Yes, I'd make a motion that we continue on with this, but marking off A and B policy. As I know and understand and agree, and 99.9% of the time, Mr. Atkins, you're right, there's just some language cleanup, but I have not had time, none of us board members have had time to review these policies. And I'm not comfortable with voting on something that I don't have time to read.
So you asking that A and B be taken off, but C, D, and E be approved? Is that-
Yes.
Okay.
That we move forward with this vote of C, D, and E, but we scratch A and B until we've had time to review.
So I got a motion on the floor to amend A and B from the agenda on this. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a second on the amendment for the motion. Let's take roll, please, on just the amendment.
Caruso,
Aye.
Daniel,
Yes.
Dryden,
Yes.
Jacobs,
Yes.
Mabry,
Aye.
Niter, Rochelle,
Yes.
Weathers,
Yes.
8 ayes.
Motion carries to remove items A and B, that's policy 2.702 and policy 2.802 on payroll procedures. Is that correct? Okay. good
Yes.
deal. Now moving on to the original motion without A and B. We have a second on the floor, a motion and a second. Are there any questions regarding those policies? Very well, please call roll.
Sorry, let me get my correct sheet here.
Take your time,
I apologize.
no problem.
So now we're voting to approve C through E.
C, D,
with-
and E, yes,
As
ma'am.
amended.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Weathers,
Yes.
Rochelle,
Yes.
Niter,
Yes.
Mabry,
Aye.
Jacobs,
Yes.
Dryden,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
Caruso,
Yes.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Moving on to item number 6, other items for consideration. Under A, school board attorney. Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Chairman, the board, after our work session on Tuesday, I did make contact with the legal counsel that the board advised me or gave me permission to reach out to, the law firm of Lewis Thomason and Attorney Chuck Cagle to represent the school board. I did share a text message with you, his response that yes, he would serve as legal counsel for the school system. So if you are prepared to move forward, Mr. Cagle is willing to represent us.
I
Move
make
to
a motion
approve.
to hire Chuck Cagle and the Lewis Thomas law firm to represent Lawrence County School System.
I got a motion on the floor to approve Mr. Cagle as an attorney. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second on the floor. Have any discussions or questions? Very well, please call roll.
Caruso,
Aye.
Daniel,
Yes.
Dryden,
Yes.
Jacobs,
Yes.
Mabry,
Aye.
Niter,
Aye.
Rochelle,
Yes.
Weathers,
Yes.
8 ayes.
Motion carried, and I do want to put emphasis that we are getting a very top firm that's very recognized in this field, and Mr. Cagle is an outstanding attorney, and are most of his people in his office too. So if you would, Mr. Atkins, please notify him first thing in the morning and congratulate him, and he will be getting probably some calls from us. Moving on to B, use of school time for athletics. Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Chairman, from time to time, schools will have a request to leave during the school day, either to do a makeup game for spring sports, to leave early to go participating in an athletic event, to schedule a game. It might be a special circumstance where they're getting to go and maybe play baseball at Vanderbilt on their field that would require them to leave during the school day. And there's a state law that says this can happen as long as the board approves it. And so what I'm presenting to you tonight is when those special requests come into me, if you would give me permission to approve or deny those based on the circumstances and not have to go to the board every time. If you prefer to go to the board every time, I'm fine with that. But if you would be okay with me making a determination, I'd ask you to give me that authority tonight or deny that authority, whatever you're most comfortable with.
I'd like to move that we, as a board, allow Michael to make those calls.
Second.
We got a motion on the floor, Mr. Atkins, to approve those overnight or any athletic trips. And the second, are there any questions for Mr. Atkins at this time? Very well. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries with a voice vote. Moving on to C, and for the personnel matter concerning Patricia Franks, the chair recognizes Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Chairman, I have distributed to you copies of the charges for the suspension of Patty Franks, a tenured teacher in the Lawrence County School System, that you'll have just a few moments to look over.
Now, I might want to interject that these were handed out to us yesterday afternoon, is that correct?
Yes.
In the email.
Yeah. Based upon the information I've shared with you, the charges brought forth, as Director of Schools, I am recommending to the board your consideration a suspension of Mrs. Franks for 11 days. I would also request a copy of these charges, which is attached to these documents I share with you, be attached as an exhibit into the minutes of this meeting.
So members of the board, Mr. Atkins has recommended charges confirming the suspicion of Patricia Franks, a tenured teacher employed by this board, and is requesting that she is given an opportunity for a hearing resulting from this suspension. The only decision that this board is charged with tonight making at this time is that if any of these charges is true, suspension from services of tenured teacher was warranted, and that Ms. Franks has the right to a hearing on these charges. Is there any discussion or questions regarding from the board concerning these charges? Very well, moving on. Would any board member like to make a motion of these charges is true, that the suspension from the services was proper, and Ms. Franks be given notice of her rights to a hearing before a hearing officer who the director, Mr. Atkins, will appoint?
I make a motion that we impose the 11-day suspension that Mr. Atkins has brought to us concerning this. Also, in that motion, I'd like to add that when all of the legal/criminal part of this is done, that we come back and look at it once again to give it a final resolve.
We have a motion on the floor to approve Mr. Atkins' suspension and to further come back as a board to revisit it. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion on the floor and a second. Are any further questions regarding this issue? Please call roll.
Caruso,
Here. Aye, I'm sorry, aye. Yes,
Daniel?
aye.
Yes.
Dryden,
Yes.
Jacobs,
I pass.
Mabry,
Aye.
Nidert,
Aye.
Rochelle,
Yes.
Weathers,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 pass.
Motion carries. Mr. Atkins, would you please notify Ms. Franks that the board has voted, if any of these charges present are true, then suspension from services was warranted. Please also give Ms. Franks notice of her rights to the hearing on these charges with the stipulation that her request for a hearing must be received by your office within 30 days of the receipt of the notice. This notice should be provided Mr. Franks by certified mail, return receipt request, by first-class U.S. mail, by personal service, email, or by any other reliable and necessary means. As the chair of the board, I am also directing that a copy of these charges of dismissal against Ms. Franks be attached to the minutes of this meeting of the board. Mr. Atkins, do you have any other things?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure I have what I'm supposed to do correctly and what the intention of the board is. The board preliminarily supports the recommendation of the directors. That is the 11-day suspension, and based on the allegations, and is also reserving the right to revisit this matter to consider further disciplinary sanctions when it is fully adjudicated in the courts. Is that what Mr.?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I had that right.
Very good. Moving on to D, 2023 school calendar. Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Chairman, before you is the public version of the calendar. We began working on this last summer with a group of teachers discussing ideas, possibilities, solutions. We put this out to the LCSS community, asked them to give us their thoughts, and this is what they voted on. There are two calendars. They're the same, but one is teacher calendar, which is more involved with some of the dates and that sort of thing that pertains to teachers. The one before you is the public calendar that would go out on things that might end up on someone's mailbox or refrigerator at home. But this is what was approved by the Lawrence County School System employees that participated in our survey and vote.
I'd like to move that we approve this calendar.
I got a motion on the floor to approve. Do I have a second to approve the calendar?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any questions regarding this calendar that was approved? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries by voice vote. Before we adjourn, our next board meeting is January 19th at 5 p.m. Also, I'd like to make an announcement that Mr. Atkins had a little gift for us, and I believe they're in the room.
Ready there.
And right there in the back room. Does anybody have any questions or any departing words?
Motion we adjourn.
Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned.